is our mini lecture on example 1.26, analyzing classical form. In this excerpt, we are going to look at sequential progressions, and specifically one sequential progression that is a descending fifth sequential progression. This is the most common type of sequential progression. Kaplan writes about it on page 20. And also look at example 1.17c for the same progression notated in the key of C major. We'll also look at modulation, because this piece starts in the key of F minor and yet concludes in the key of A flat major. We want to number our measures. 99 is already notated for us. And then if you have your Think in the Key page for F minor, A flat major already worked out, great. But let's at least spell our scale. And we need both E flat, the subtonic, that is the 5 of our relative major, and we need our E natural leading tone triad that points back to tonic F minor. Since we know that this excerpt is going to modulate to the key of A flat major, we also want to spell the scale in A flat major and line up the common chords. G diminished is the leading tone to A flat major. B flat minor is 4 in F minor, is 2 in A flat major. C is minor in A flat major, but it was the dominant in F minor. D flat is the 4 chord in A flat. It was our 6 in F minor. E flat is the dominant of A flat major. This is the subtonic in F minor. There is no E natural in the key of A flat major. F, our former tonic, is now the submediate. So we're thinking common chords since we know that we're moving from F minor to A flat major. F minor is our first harmony, F in the bass, A flat in an inner voice, and C in the upper voice. B flat, the A flat sustains, and G flat. So B flat, D flat, there is no F. The fifth is omitted, which if you have a dominant seventh or any kind of seventh chord, you'll remember that the fifth is the most common chord number to omit. And this is a 3-voice texture, so none of these seventh chords are going to have a fifth. B flat, G flat, A flat, this is our 4-7. Harmonic rhythm is 2 chords per measure. Moving on into measure 96, E flat, G, and G flat. That is the 7. The E flat, that is our subtonic. E flat is the bass, E flat, G, and D flat. That E flat to D flat is a minor 7th, which is the 7 up there. And this is one of those chords. I put a flat in front of the Roman numeral, and this isn't just me. There is a school analytical tradition that says you put a flat in front of the Roman numeral to indicate that the root of this 7 is the minor 7 above the tonic F. Notice that measure 96 is the first time that we have this little motive. Da, 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 da. This is essentially all about D flat. The D flat to F is a leap of a third, and then fills in that leap by descending stepwise motion, and it returns to D flat. So this is all about D flat. We're not going to really worry about the F and the E flat. That's ornamental. The next chord, A flat in the bass, A flat, G in the middle voice, C. Again, this is another instance of the E flat fifth being omitted. This is our relative major. It is a minor third above F, and A flat to G is the major 7th. D flat, F, and C. This is our flat 6th, D flat to C is the major seventh. G, F, and B flat, this is the 2. Now there's no fifth D flat or D natural in some instances of F minor, but let's presume it should be the diatonic D flat, G flat, B flat, D flat, and F. This is our half diminished 7. C7, C, E natural, B flat, and returning to F minor, F, and A flat. There's no C there, but with in the key of F minor, an F and an A flat will certainly imply tonic chord. The point of arrival for F minor is the second half of the measure. We'll talk about the rest of the measure in just a moment. Our sequence is down by fifth. Kaplan recommends putting a sequential progression in parentheses and then labeling SEQ for sequence. This sequence connects two statements of the F minor tonic triad. The descending fifth, if you look at the root of the 1 chord going to the root of the 4 chord and count backwards 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, this is the descending fifth. We're not worried about the type of fifth, it's just the generic interval. 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, that's another descending fifth. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, descending fifth. 3, 2, 1, 7, 6, descending fifth. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, descending fifth. 2, 1, 7, 6, 5, and 5 back to 1. So the sequential progression of descending fifths, the most common, this is counterclockwise around the circle of fifths. The end of measure 98, we arrive on the 1 chord. There's a melodic motive, dum da da dum dum. It has been sequenced up by third in measure 99, dum da da dum dum. And then we arrive on 4 repeated eighth notes. Bum, 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 bum. Take a look at this little motive. Dum, da, da, dum, dum. So G is the lower neighbor to the A flat. B is the passing tone up to C. C, da, da, dum, dum. B flat is again our lower neighbor. And D flat is the passing tone up to E flat. Dum, da, da, dum, 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 da, da, dum, 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 dum. There is a sense, if you remove the neighbor and the passing tone, that this would just be all A flats. Bum, 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 bum. And similarly, this would be all C's. Bum, 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 bum. When we arrive at the third statement, first statement, second statement, third statement, it's just a simplified version with no lower neighbor, no passing tone. So one way of analyzing this modulation from F minor over to A flat major is to say it's a sequential modulation. We have a motive, it sequences up by third, and the third statement would be the simplified version of yet another third. A flat to C to E flat, so certainly it's possible to analyze this as a sequential modulation. Another way of analyzing this modulation is to say that E flat is the common tone between F minor and A flat. That's a little bit of shaky ground because you know that it really takes E natural to indicate the key of F minor, though E flat is in the key signature. It is that subtonic that is diatonic between both F minor and A flat major. So you can call this a sequential modulation. You could also say it's a common tone modulation. Remember that common tone modulation, the texture totally thins, as this does at the end of measure 99, and all you get is repeated statements of that common tone pitch. Another way that I think it's the weakest way of analyzing this modulation, when you arrive in measure 99 on A flats and C's, probably you're going to analyze this as the relative major as the flat 3 of F minor, or the tonic in A flat major, as if it's a pivot modulation. I think that's very weak. I think more strongly you're going to hear this as a sequential modulation, perhaps as a common tone modulation, but definitely in measure 100, if you're thinking the key of A flat, The last quarter note is A flat. The previous harmony is the 5-6-5 in the key of A flat. And this phrase finishes in A flat major, 2-6, D flats, F and B flat indicate 2-6. Halfway through measure 101, E flat in the bass. This is the cadential 6-4. C above the E flat is the 6th. I'm going to go ahead and write the octave above. We'll see why in a moment. And the A flat is the 4th above. The 6th in the tenor descends to the 5th above. The octave E flat descends down by a step to add the 7th, and the A flat descends by a 3rd. This is the 5 cadential 6-4 resolving out to a 5-7. In measure 102, the bass arrives on the downbeat of the measure on the E flat. Kaplan refers to that as the moment of cadential arrival. He refers to it on page 58. You can read up on that. The moment of cadential arrival is determined by the bass, not by melodic motivic content in the right hand or in the melody. So this is ornamented. The D flat and the B flat are suspended from the dominant. This is an ornamented, you can call this a suspended dominant. You can call this an ornamented resolution of the cadence, or ornamented resolution of the 5-7 to 1. You can call it an ornamented cadence, but this is the perfect authentic cadence in the key of A flat major. This is a complete cadential progression because we have tonic, predominant, ornamented dominant, and return to the tonic in A flat major. So this particular progression, excerpt, we looked at a sequential progression of descending fifths that's counterclockwise around the circle of fifths. We looked at a modulation 3 different ways. The strongest way is to call this a sequential modulation. You could also think of it as a common tone modulation. A weakness would be to call it a pivot modulation. When you've got the sequence and you've got the common tone, those are stronger. We have a modulation to the relative major of A flat major. Complete cadential progression. The moment of cadential arrival is the downbeat of measure 102, so it is an ornamented arrival at that perfect authentic cadence.